Hello and welcome to this keynote event dedicated to one of the most innovative renewable energy for the future, the offshore wind energy. We will see together how this offshore wind can be a major source of energy for the future and how SBM Offshore could be a key actor in this market with its innovative and new product, Float4Wind. We will see it with our guests and with you. Thanks for being with us for that journey in the world of new energies and the secret powers of oceans. To introduce this event, we are delighted to welcome Bruno Chabas. He is the CEO of SBM Offshore. He is with us. Hello, Bruno.
Good day, Regis.
Hello. Nice to have you with us in that great studio with the oceans.
Yeah, I feel like a fish in the middle of all the oceans.
Yeah, kind of. We will speak with you about this new solution, this new product design for this floating offshore wind market. But before, I would like to see with you and underline your commitment in this new renewable energy. It's important because you are known, your company is known for many years as a leading offshore energy service provider. You are pioneer in mooring, in buyers, in floaters for oil and gas extractions. What are today your main ambitions concretely on these renewable energies?
So I can speak to you about our renewable energy, and I will do so because we have an ambition, and it's a concrete ambition. By 2030, we would like to have installed 2 gigawatts of floating systems with floating wind. That's a concrete ambition. That's something which is tangible. We believe this is going to be a third of the market at this stage, so we want to be a leader on that. It's not the only ambition we have on the renewable side. We also want to implement and to do some technology associated with the wave energy. However, when you speak about energy transition, you cannot limit it to the renewable industry. You need to look at the energy business as a whole. And in particular, when producing energy, what you're trying to do is to decarbonize everything that we're doing. And that's what we have been doing and what we will continue to do through programs like emission zero in our fleet with a new FPSO that we're putting in productions.
Yeah, it has a big ambition goal, this emission zero program also. Energy transition is really at the center of your strategy and for today and for the years to come. You have more than 60% of your R&D budget which is dedicated to these renewable energies. Yet, I would say the historical core of business of SBM Offshore is still on fossil energies. As you invest in all these new technologies, would you consider yourself, I would say, as an energy company, like you've been for many years, or as, I would say, a new green energy company?
I would say we're not a green company. That's not what we're aiming at being. We're not an energy company either. What we are a company which is involved in the energy transition business. And the energy transition business is a whole range of things. It's too simplistic and too dogmatic to speak about energy and saying it's only renewable. In reality, if we want to satisfy the need of energy, which is to have energy which is going to be affordable in order to leave nobody behind and which is decarbonized, we need to bring a vast array of solutions. And that's what SBM Offshore is doing. We're doing this through our program in the fossil energy, through the oil production, by really reducing the production of CO2 in everything that we're doing, our emission programs. And we're doing it also by positioning ourselves into the renewable industry. The point I'm trying to make, it's much more complex than saying you're only a renewable company. We're in the energy transition business. That's what we are.
This is energy transition business is your strategy, is your objective, is your aim at the moment also. And I would say that in this energy transition business, there is one very important point for you. It's all around us, actually, here in the studio. It's the oceans.
Yeah.
The oceans is very important. It's a long story for SBM Offshore. It's your aim, it's the belief of your company, of your people. You build for the oceans, you operate in the oceans. Yet it's strange because for these new energies, oceans has been for a long time not in the first place to explore, to search for this new energy. We didn't look at the oceans at first. How much of a challenge, how much of a chance also are the oceans to access new sources of energies?
We believe it's a great opportunity. The history, the know-how, the experience of SBM Offshore is linked to the ocean, is linked to the ability of developing projects offshore. So this knowledge combined with the availability which exists and the opportunity which exists in the ocean give us great opportunities. Now, it's often mistaken to say those opportunities exist, so why don't they happen? They're going to happen, but a lot of technology, a lot of innovation, a lot of know-how need to come into play in order for this to exist. And SBM Offshore, with the marine expertise that we have and the expertise that we have in developing oil and gas solution, is really extremely well placed to bring new solutions to this world.
This marine expertise is really also at the center of this new product, this new solution. It's going to be, we're going to see it today, and it's very, it's a great chance, it's a good moment to have and to see for one of the first time, not the first time, this Float4Wind. It will come on the screen just behind us. We have the Float4Wind here.
Yeah.
We're going to speak a lot about this product during this keynote. Just in a few words, how much of a really innovative solution is it for you? And what makes you the most proud about the achievement of this project?
Yeah, as you say, there is all a program coming up which is going to speak about the detail of the solution, and you're going to be fairly impressed with it. What makes me proud is really a combination of factors. It's first of all, a system that you're seeing behind me, which seems to be fairly simple, is in fact the essence of what we have been doing over the years, of doing standardization, doing industrialization, creating new solutions. That makes me proud to be able to innovate with products like this and to bring those products to the market. What makes me proud is all the people who are working on this. It's really their capacity to innovate, their willingness to find new solutions, their willingness to discover new things, their willingness to bring something new to the market is really what makes me proud.
This product is going to be presented to experts, to clients, to partners in the weeks, in the months to come. What kind of reactions do you expect from them? Will you like to have while this product will be presented to them?
So we have had few interactions with our clients at this stage. And in fact, we're in the process of finalizing a prototype that we're going to work with a client, with a partner of us, to develop this Float4Wind first into a 16 megawatts turbine in 200 meter water depth. This will be done in Norway, assuming that the project is being sanctioned, in 200 meters of water depth. So what we see is the first time we're coming to the market and ready to present this project in full, but the few interactions we have had with the clients and our partners is extremely enthusiastic, I would say.
It's the beginning of a new story, I would say, this Float4Wind actually. How confident are you about the fact that it's going to be a long story? That's going to be a successful story, and that's going to be a sustainable story for SBM Offshore.
It's the beginning of a new story. I would say it's a continuation of a long story of SBM Offshore. As a company, we have installed more than 600 floating systems anchored in the world, more than any other company in the world. This is a continuation of what we have been doing in the past, and is one step into really creating a new future there. Again, when I speak about the energy transition, where we are as a company, is really a continuum, is decarbonizing the production of oil today and going into the renewable industry. So this is a step in this direction.
In the direction of the energy transition strategy you have. Thanks a lot, Bruno, to have been with us and enlightening us about all this new product and this strategy and your commitment in this renewable energy. Thanks a lot. We will discover with our guests more about this Float4Wind.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. We will begin the discovery of this Float4Wind solution by trying to understand better the perspective of this offshore wind market. And for that, we have the chance to have with us in the studio Séverine Bodek. Hello, Séverine.
Hello.
You're the Managing Director, New Energies and Service at SBM Offshore. You are managing the new energies activities of the company, including floating offshore wind. And it's good, we're going to speak about it. And we also have with us, live from Oslo in Norway, Alexander Fløtræs is Vice President Offshore Wind at Rystad Energy. Hello, Alexander, do you hear me?
I hear you well. Hi.
Hello. So Rystad is an independent energy house with consulting, forecasts, analysis in the field of energy business with all kind of actors. We're really glad to have you with us in order to understand better this perspective. Let's have a look at the market with you, Alexander. The energy transition we know will be operated through an energy mix with different type of energies and different type of renewable energies. What are the specificities? What are the assets of the offshore wind energy in the mix?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think one of the key reasons why offshore wind is getting so much attention these days is the scale and scalability of offshore wind, and the way that we can kind of attract higher capacity factors, reach higher capacity factors, and get more actual power output. I think a lot of these very ambitious climate targets that different nations are now setting out, that needs to kind of change the mentality to either or. And when you talk about different energy sources and other energy sources competing, I think you need to start to think about the and, because you need every energy source available on the renewable side to reach those climate targets. And it should also be mentioned that there's a lot of different nations that have already either tapped a lot of their onshore areas for onshore renewables, or they don't have a lot of onshore areas to use the onshore renewables and need to look to offshore wind, for example, to reach their targets.
So it has also an environmental asset which will be major for the years to come, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, another one of the softer kind of items as well is the fact that you want to put those wind farms outside the coast, farther away from people, from bird life, out of sight, and out into the deeper waters, and that's also where floating wind comes in. For example.
You're doing a lot of forecast. Let's go for forecasting this market. What are your forecasts for the years to come? To 2030, 2035, even maybe more, and where this offshore wind energy market shall be booming the most?
Yeah. So when it comes to general offshore wind, we're currently at around 50 gigawatts of operational capacity and reaching more than 255 gigawatts of capacity is what we expect for the world towards 2030. Now, for floating wind, we don't expect floating wind to be a big part of this decade's kind of capacity deployment, but we think that it's still going to be a very important decade for floating wind. Now, we see floating wind kind of developing over these next years towards industrialization, towards commercialization, and reaching around 10 gigawatts by 2030 before it starts to really take off and reach more than 35 to 40 gigawatts by 2035. So that's when it really starts picking up pace and becoming a larger share of the offshore wind power mix in a way.
And where, second part of my question is, where is it going to be booming? Are there some specific spots and countries?
Yeah, definitely. And we see, some of the European countries that have been early out, but mainly the kind of the capacity build out during this decade will be split primarily between Europe and Asia. And in Asia, it's mainly South Korea in the medium to long term. But post 2030, we've also seen a lot of different auctioning activity, tendering plans that will add to the backlog, and that comes in a lot of different countries, such as Scotland. France is putting a lot of different tenders up for grabs, which we see coming online towards the turn of this decade. But we also see other nations, for example, Japan with its east coast, where the waters get quite deep quite quickly. We see Norway with a big coastline that is very deep. Scotland will be key with the huge kind of awards during the ScotWind tender last year and with the results this year. And also in the US, for example, where the West Coast and the line of sight requirements are pushing these different floating or offshore wind farms into deeper waters and out from the coast. And then we also saw, Portugal with new plans now. Spain has plans for along the Canary Islands. There's a lot of different areas where we see that it's a big push to drive floating wind.
Yeah, and South Korea, Japan, a lot of countries all over the world have the space and the place for these new technologies. There are different types of these offshore wind technologies, and some experimentation are ongoing in different parts of the world. There's a big competition between these different technologies. So who's going to be the champion at the end for you, and what is key to make the difference for these technologies?
Yeah, I think I want to start with kind of saying that we've done a comparative analysis of different technologies. And when I say the different technologies, I mean the semi-submersibles versus spar buoys versus the TLPs, for example. And what we found is that this comparative analysis shows that different climates and different areas require different solutions. So to start with, there is room for several technologies. That being said, I think the key to success is really to start to build scale. So it's very connected to kind of project success and being linked to projects that are actually going ahead, getting that project through the different steps towards really being commercially available, getting up that technology readiness level, as we call it, and really building scale to cut costs. And that last word is a key word: cutting costs, building towards reducing LCOE. Throughout, focusing on the key challenges in the industry, such as the M&O side of things, the maintenance and operation, getting down kind of the LCOE for floating wind, and those that are successful in building that scale to reach those lower LCOEs will definitely be successful in this market.
Last question about SBM Offshore. We spoke about this with Bruno. It's an historical oil and gas company. What are the assets of such historical company in this new market with newcomers, and what is key in the transition from a fossil energy business to a green energy strategy?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we've seen quite a big influx of oil and gas or OFS companies that have been transitioning, and especially towards floating offshore wind. And I think the key here is the overlap, and that's what we're seeing when we talk to different companies about how to transition in this kind of new green energy space, is to see where is the overlap between the legacy and the new. And I think that's where we see, the deep water experience, the marine operations, the kind of the legacy expertise can be applied and can be really used as an advantage in the floating space. So I think that those are the kind of key metrics to really be successul in this industry.
Severin, I would like to go to you. Do you agree with what Alexander said? And what makes of an historical oil and gas company like SBM Offshore a pretty competitive actor on this new market for you?
So yeah, absolutely. First, I have to say I do share the view of Alexander. I think for me it's very clear that the oil and gas expertise brings a lot of value to the offshore wind industry. If I look at a company like SBM Offshore, that's I think the natural evolution that we've seen when we started that journey in developing our first floater for the floating offshore wind industry. So we have lots of competencies that we can transition directly from those decades of designing, building, mooring system, anything that floats basically, and so it's been like a normal things to do and also an exciting journey. There's also a lot of expertise more related to execution and fabrication of complex projects that indeed will then be delivered and installed offshore, and that knowledge of the offshore environment make us a very relevant player for this industry. Competitiveness is what we're driving for, and I think we will touch more on that when we go in the detail of our new Float4Wind product.
We're on a quite native market. The first farm, I guess, was done in 2017, so it's kind of new with different technologies. We spoke about this. The Float4Wind technology, what makes it not just one more on the list, if I could say so, but a potential real game changer in the market? For you, what makes it that potential game changer?
I think we will try to explain a bit more, but I think the objective of that product was really competitiveness or designing something to cost. I think Alexander said what's important is how we can cut costs down in all the phases of the project. There's also lots of technology in this market, so how can we differentiate? What we want in our ambition is to be one of the top 3 technology provider. I agree with Alexander again, there will be different technology needed in different areas of the world, but eventually the market will consolidate only around few technologies. And our ambition is to be among the top 3. So for that, we need to be a game changer. We need to have the right products if we want to secure really all the market share that we want to secure. So that's really with that in mind that we developed our new products, also with a stronger understanding of the market and the customer needs. And last but not least, I think we've been also fortunate to be already able to incorporate return on experience from our first floater and to be able to continue in that journey, to drive the cost down, to drive the LCOE down. I think that return of experience is extremely valuable.
We'll have a few questions from the connected audience we have. We got questions before this keynotes on the subject of the keynotes, and I would like to have 1 or 2 questions. They're just here. There's one question which is for you, Alexander. Can you have a view about the evolution of the price of this offshore wind technologies? We know it's going to be it's still costing a lot. Can it be costing less and less, and can it be competitive to green energies like solar energies, for instance?
I think offshore wind, because of its characteristics, it's more complex than, for example, onshore solar. I think there will be a bit of a premium for quite some time, but offshore wind is still in its early days, and there's still a way to go in terms of cutting costs. We do see that in the medium term, the kind of the price pressure and the inflationary pressure that we're seeing now is kind of delaying that a little bit, but we see that journey is going towards 2030. For floating wind, we also think that some of the industry developments or the technological development that we have seen in the bottom fixed segment, that's an advantage for floating wind, which can piggyback a little bit off of that technological development and reach the same levels sooner. So for floating wind, we see the main cost cutting in the second half of this decade, and towards 2030, kind of reaching those kind of commercial levels.
We see, as Severin said, that it's going to be a really major difference and a really major competitive asset for the years to come. Thank you, Alexander, for being with us and give us all these very interesting views and forecasts. Severin, you stay with us. We're going to see some more assets, some more aspects of this Float4Wind technology in the next part of our keynote. We will start with the first moment on the technology of this Float4Wind product. And Float4Wind is really an incredible technological challenge. It will have to tame the savage natural environment of the ocean. Here it's not that savage, but it really can be sometimes. It will also have to support turbines 100 meters high and even more. It will have to process in bigger and bigger farms all over the oceans. So it's going to be a real technological challenge for the years to come. And for that, Float4Wind has answers. We're going to speak about this, and with you, Christian Baudouin, you're the Renewable Technology Manager at SBM Offshore. You heading the teams who conceived the innovative technology of this Float4Wind. We will learn more about it afterwards, but let's start with the beginning of this story. What gave you at first the idea to step ahead in that new field of offshore wind market technology activities, and how the expertise of the oil and gas helps you to have new visions?
It starts always with, let's say, some curiosity first, and as well some coincidence. And we were with the team at the conference for the oil and gas activity, and in fact, it was not so much interesting, and at the same time we had session on the renewable, and we decided to go to this session. And it's where we start to connect with the domain and to see that in fact people who are trying to resolve problematic that we have found in our core business in the oil and gas, and that we realized that we could bring something to resolve the problematic of the coupling of the turbine with the floater and with the moorings, and that of course SBM has been involved in this sector and in this type of systems for many years, and we decided to enter into this problematic, to look after and really to value all the knowledge of our expertise on mooring system and floater for this solution. So it starts very often with, let's say, curiosity on a different aspect of the technology.
There's always a little story at the beginning of big success.
That's a little story.
I said there's different technologies ongoing and experimented on the oceans. What are the main assets and the main difference of this TLP technology?
In fact, after our curiosity was a bit satisfied by looking at this problematic, in fact, we realized that there is really a selection of the systems to be done. It has been mentioned already. There is, let's say, 4 types of floaters that we could envisage: semi-submersible, TLP, of course, spar, and barges. And we know all of these systems in our previous experience. So the first steps was to make a screening of all of them to identify which one has the best potential to develop these markets and to be cost effective. Of course, the TLP is by nature, compared to the 3 others, systems which is much more stable, which is not moving a lot, which look like the fixed. And it was really the request of the market and the turbine supplier to have a system like a fix. On top of that, I would say that the turbine of the bottom fix industry could be easily adapted on our floater and would produce as efficiently that on the fix, where on the other floater you need to cope with the vessel motion, the motion of the floater, and you are, let's say, losing a bit of energy. In our systems, on a TLP, you will produce as much as on the fix, and it makes the prediction of the production on the farm very robust. And when you are making the early development of your farm, you need to secure not only the cost, but the revenue that you will get from this farm to make your economy robust. And definitely it's one of the main points that the TLP is bringing to this market, and that's why we have selected this floater.
This TLP technology is the version 2, if I can say, of a floating offshore wind solution that you are currently building in the south of France, in Marseille. The main challenge of this version 2 was to value simplification for the design of the structure, to make it easier to produce and to assembly. What are the main challenges of these simplifications, and how could it reduce the final cost, because that's the point at the end.
Yes, of course. So the first version was really to de-risk our TLP, and we are in execution of the Provence Grand Large project. So we needed to make sure that we could develop a TLP based on our knowledge, which is very robust, and that we can easily, let's say, develop the systems and validate the TLP concept first. But through this exercise, we realize as well that in terms of, let's say, optimization and cost and long-term target for the production of the farm, commercial farm, and in terms of also scale of the number of floater that we will need to deliver, we had to make some improvement. And on the cost, one of the main aspects that we have been considering is that today, when you are building a structure in steel plate construction, you are at a rate of $5 to $7 per kilo very often, and it's not much today the expectation of the market. So we needed really to reduce the cost of the steel which is used for our floater. And we learn a lot from the bottom fixed industry, which is today doing mast and monopile at a cost much lower, around $2.5 per kilo. And that's why we said, okay, we need to realize the TLP, the same like the one we had in first version, but in a way which is much more cost effective, cost driven. And that's why we have decided to build this TLP based on the assembly of 4 tubes, which corresponds to the one which are produced in the bottom fixed industry. And we take as well the benefits of this industry, which is, let's say, well developed, which is very automated, and that's the reason why the cost of the steel is lower.
Just towards Severin, regarding what Christian just says, is this simplification a major issue for the competitiveness, for the competitive asset of this technology for the years to come?
In a way, yes, but I think, as Christian mentioned, I think this second version was really driven by cost, and in fact, we found that the best way to achieve cost was simplification. And today, that's why we believe we have a product that can meet the market needs in terms of fabrication in large quantity and cost, because as you can see, the design inherently is very simple, which means that the supply chain is simple, which means that the assembly is simple, which means as well that the project execution becomes predictive and simpler. And so that contributes to the competitiveness. So that's really what we aim for, and that's where we think we have the right product that the market needs. I think one key point as well, because we talked about volume, we talked about those large commercial wind farms. What's also important at the same time is to have a design that can be versatile enough, in the sense that you can build it in many different locations. And I think that's also something we're addressing, something that's predictable, but also can meet the local content requirements and adapt with the capabilities of the different markets.
We'll speak about that in the next chapter, about the execution model. Just one last question. Christian, we saw that it has to meet the need of the market today, but it's a booming market. So it has to meet the current need, but the need to come also of the market. It's going to be bigger and bigger turbines. It's going to be spots in the ocean that's going to be far away from the shore, and more far away from the shore. Is this Float4Wind technology adapted to this oncoming need of the market?
Yeah, definitely, and it's something that we had to validate on the product to really quantify all the evolution that we will need to be facing. So, for example, when we start, we were looking at a turbine of 6 to 8 megawatt, which was supposed to be a gigantic turbine at 4 years ago, and today they are not anymore the base case. So today we are working with 15 megawatt turbine as base case, 20 megawatt turbines, which are turbine which does not exist yet, but that we know will be on the farm that we are competing today. So it's really important that we had validated that our floater could adapt to this large turbine which will come in the future, to make sure that our product is robust and can address as you mentioned, the booming of the market, and as well, yes, there is a lot of cost saving with that associated with the reduction of the bigger turbine, reduction of the number of units. So we need to make sure that our floater is efficient, so that the floater scale up nicely with the turbine in terms of cost itself, and then you know that you will reduce on the costs related to the number of units. So that's why it was really important. But that's not the only aspect. There is a turbine for sure, but there is the location, and we know that we will have to address different markets. We talk about the East Japan or California. It would be much deeper market, up to 1,000 meter water depths. And then we will need to adapt the mooring systems as well to cope with these big water depths. And it's what we are working on as well to let's say, use a different type of mooring systems from wire and chain. We are moving to synthetic rope mooring systems, which allow to reach this deep water and to make efficient development in a large range of conditions that we will have to face in the future.
From 50 to 100, 200 meters deep, that
yes.
could be deeper and deeper, if I can
exactly,
say.
Yes.
Let's have some questions from the connected audience we received. One is for you, Séverine. Do you have technologies in other renewable energy fields and prototype oncoming?
So we have obviously our first version of floater, but Christian alluded to it. So we're working on this pilot project called Provence Grand Large for EDF Renewable. That's one of the 4 French pilot projects that were sanctioned, I think, back in 2016, with the intent really to demonstrate various technologies before the award of the larger commercial wind farm. But then we also have another technology that we're working on to address a new market, again, the wave energy market. So we are working today on the development of a new product, a wave energy converter, for which we're planning to have one prototype installed to really test the technology. I think the wave energy market today does not exist because there's no technology which is mature yet. But to have that step, that technology that could prove to tap into this huge market could be really disruptive in the future.
Just a few minutes and just one question to you, Christian, coming from the audience too. What are the next major innovations to expect in order to improve this TLP technology? Are there some news coming?
Yeah, for sure. You know, we have to drive the cost down. That's really the expectation of the market. So we demonstrate today what we have been achieving on the floater in terms of simplification. But below the floater, there is some element as well that we need to mature and which are quite important. So the mooring systems is one of it. The Encore, the connection on the systems, so they are a key component of the overall systems that we are working on to optimize their cost. And this is very related as well to the installation of the systems, how easy will be the installation of the systems. So there is a lot of activity at the moment on let's say, the lower part, which is below the floater.
Will be for next keynote event,
yes,
I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks a lot, Christian. It was a pleasure to have you and to see how critical and how strategical is this technology in this Float4Wind. And we saw also that the execution model is crucial and critical. We'll speak about this in the last chapter of our keynote. This Float4Wind product is supported by an execution model which is designed to optimize all industrialization issues. It's very important and it shall be critical for the years to come on this growing market. We have for us to speak about this with us today, Laurent Verdier. Thanks for being with us. You're the product line director for renewable at SBM Offshore. Laurent, you work on many offshore projects in your career. You know a lot about the importance of this executions model. What are the major assets of SBM Offshore in optimizing this execution model?
Yes, you're right. There is a recipe to find between project and serial production. And in SBM, what is really remarkable is the experience across the full value chain, from design, procurement, installation, and operation. In operation, in fact, this is where we take the most of the learning on the product. We have currently most of our resource SBMers who are operating offshore. And this is very natural in SBM to bring back the learnings from operation and construction into the design. In parallel, what we wanted also is to bring the serial production part into the new ADN to address the renewable market. And there is an industrialization team which is in place since 4 years in SBM and is developing a program of industrialization for the years to come. And we are creating this organization so that the industrialization competencies are also part of these project competencies.
For that, I guess that you had to work in new ways with your production line and the research team
of
Christian, actually, production line team, research team. You had to collaborate a lot and in new ways, I guess.
In fact, to collaborate was pretty easy because we wanted both to really have our teams working together on the design of a serial production floater. The challenge came that we wanted to do it on time to market. We wanted to offer this Float4Wind for 2022, and we have started the exercise back in 2020, exactly the same year when we were starting the EPC contract of Provence Grand Large project. So we decided to work as one team, so that the learnings we were taking on the Provence Grand Large were directly embedded in the design of Float4Wind.
We're going to see how you really made this optimization of this execution model possible. On the production line first, actually, Christian told us that one of the key of this simplification process he worked on was to use less material and more accessible material. Is this something very important in the executive model for production line?
Yeah, definitely. What we want at the end is to have an execution of project which is in a normal time frame, so comparable to bottom fix. So it's to have some pace of delivery which are fast. What we realized already with the demo project, which is a kind of pre-series, is that some items are not very good to fulfill the planning, such as castings. So we wanted to remove these long lead items. The second point is that we have some complex structure that we have designed that maybe we could have take it already off the shelf, especially for the transition piece. And when you have off-the-shelf products, standard products, which are already known by the bottom fixed market, for which the interface with the wind turbine is already pretty defined, interface with the inter-array cable is pretty defined in the bottom fix, then it brings a lot of simplification and a lot of advantage during the execution. Production
is one part, assembly is one part, and assembly can be complex, can be expensive, and can be long. How can you make this assembly moment of the whole execution model smoother and cheaper?
Cheaper is a challenge always. De-risking, so this is our approach, de-risking the supply chain by tapping into a large supply chain, and also de-risking the assembly with some simple products. So our objective is to minimize the welding construction, and this is possible because now we have less pieces to assemble, so this is really possible. And the design is simpler, meaning that we can embark some automatic welding solution, which is a way to control quality and to repeat the quality from one asset to the other. And when you have that, you can start to plan the work as an industry, as an automotive industry, having various assembly lines who are delivering their part of the work in a same pace, in a cadenced manner. And then you make sure that manpower and your tools, your cranes, are fully occupied. And this is really the economy number one. But more important is the economy coming from the time schedule reduction. So what we have done and what we have been performing together with various companies is to assess the duration of let's say, complex structures that is to be constructed on a yard, so that we are having currently on Provence Grand Large, to simple products that can be assembled on a hub. And we move the time schedule from 5 months to 5 weeks. Meaning that doing that, if we have 6 assembly slots, we can deliver a floater once every week. And this is really the pace that the market, pace of deliveries that the market is looking for, because it minimizes the occupation of the quay. And by doing this just-on-time assembly, you don't have so much storage position offshore, which is very expensive. So the overall economics of the budget of the project is with this reduction of quay occupation and port occupation.
One important point with this technology is that it is local. It is local solutions. When you do offshore wind technologies, offshore wind solution, you have to be on spots in countries, and you have to speak with the local partners, and you have to also sometimes imply the local economy. Is it an important goal for you, for SBM Offshore, to imply the local actors, and how can you do it and improve it also?
Today, this is maybe the first question which is coming when we are actually planning the execution of a project, is our capability to make it local. There are high expectations from the market that this industry is creating jobs, and this is really the first question we are answering. And for that, we wanted to have an asset, a Float4Wind, that could be assembled anywhere, on any hub which have been developed before for the bottom fixed project, that do not require further investment in the infrastructure. In such a way, when we have a project, we are trying to find the hubs which are nearby the project locally, and we are able to make the final assembly in this place. And by doing that, using the same actor than a bottom fixed project will use. So service provider for manpower, service provider for cranes, safety, security, all these assets, and we are managing that directly. And we are making sure that there is job activity, there is also, and in terms of welding, as needed, we will be training, of course, the resources.
Severin, there is another important issue, which is maintenance. Maintenance service is very important in oil and gas for SBM Offshore. Will you also have maintenance service in the offshore wind solutions, and will you have some innovation about it?
Absolutely. I think maintenance service is part of our value proposition. So today we can propose maintenance services for the floating offshore wind. It's under development as well. So it can range from simple inspection to confirm the floater and mooring integrity, for example. But we're also looking at more, I would say, specialized and digitalized services, which can be based on monitoring and also artificial intelligence, where we can really move into a predictive maintenance philosophy. And in fact, we're doing this today on our oil and gas asset, on our FPSO fleets. We have deployed a suite of intelligent agents. So there again, the idea is really to use the same expertise and to leverage that to service basically our floating offshore wind products. In addition, and I think Laurent clearly mentioned that part, it's really part of our culture, our DNA, to take that return of experience from the operation phase, and obviously that's what we've done with Float4Wind. So today, in fact, what we have is a product which is optimized in terms of maintenance requirement, and therefore in terms of OPEX cost, and that's also a key element to reduce LCOE. So our floater today has very minimum maintenance requirement. For example, it has no active ballast system, and that in itself is a big cost reduction during the operating life.
Let's have a look to some questions from the connected audience to finish this sequence. And there's one, it's about, it's for you, Laurent, I guess, and it's about recycling. Do you have some solution for the recycling of this offshore wind solution that you will do? Is the recycling already planned, actually?
So sustainability is really one of my favorite topics, and it's a very good question. I'm also receiving it from time to time when we are explaining renewable in general in school audience. So before we decide to recycle our products, we want to address sustainability by making sure that the product is having a lifetime extension that is maximized. And this is what we also are planning with a simple product that we can control, that we can monitor, and with this smart services solution. And then, yes, one day we will decide that probably the product has to be recycled, and this is possible because it's made 100% out of steel, and steel is completely recyclable. And in fact, in the current projects, we are using also recycled steel for ballasting system or for other parts. So this is very natural to work with steel because it has this positive recycling effect.
It's the energy transition strategy. Bruno told us at the beginning. It's happening in all the part of the solution. Just maybe one word of conclusion with you, Séverine. We saw that also at the very beginning of the introduction of this keynote. Bruno told us about the fact that there will be a next step in Norway, a prototype. What will it be, and what are your expectations for this next step as we're ending this keynote?
So that's indeed our main activity and main focus at the moment is to prepare for that project. We have joined forces with a partner with the intention to have that very large wind turbines combined with our Float4Wind technology installed in Norway. What we aim is obviously to demonstrate the technical readiness of our product and also its competitiveness if we are projecting this technology in a large commercial wind farm. So the intent is really to have it in water before such award. That's again in the same spirit of wanting to de-risk those big and larger wind farms. And what we want also to test with that one demo unit is the suitability in deeper water and also harsher sea condition, because Norway, as we all know, it is indeed a wilder sea state condition. So we're quite exciting. We're looking forward to tell you more about this project in the coming month, but that's really where we will see Float4Wind technology getting in water for real.
No, thanks a lot, and you will surely share this solution, this experimentation, and the next step also with the partner, with the clients, because it's going to be this Float4Wind is going to be shared, it's going to be exposed to a lot of persons and a lot of partners for the weeks to come and the months to come. Thank you, Séverine.
Thank you,
Laurent, and thank you all for being with us in this keynote.